You open your eyes and wonder, what exactly is looking out? Deep inside your head, behind the electrical chatter of neurons, could something stranger be glowing? Imagine for a moment that your consciousness isn't just an echo of brain cells firing, but a quantum spark flickering in the void. Science has sliced brain tissue and mapped neural circuits, yet your subjective world remains invisible. You feel love, see colors, ponder meaning. None of that shows up on a brain scan. It's the paradox at the heart of neuroscience. How can lifeless matter inside your skull generate the rich cinema of your mind? It's a question that has haunted philosophers and scientists for centuries, and it remains as profound as ever. According to mainstream science, your brain is just a biological computer. Neurons fire like circuits. Input leads to output, and somehow that's supposed to be you. But there's a catch. No matter how sophisticated a computer gets, it never truly feels anything. A robot can simulate pain or love, but it does not suffer or adore. This gap is so profound, it's been dubbed the hard problem of consciousness, explaining how mere matter gives rise to mind. You and I aren't content being philosophical zombies, pretending to feel. Something real and profound is happening inside us. To solve this mystery, perhaps we need to look beyond classical biology and even beyond classical physics. Enter Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, an unlikely duo with a daring theory. Penrose, a legendary physicist, and Hameroff, a doctor who spent his life sending minds to sleep, both realize something. If the brain can't be explained by classical means, maybe something quantum is at play. Consciousness, they argue, must be more than electrical signals. It might be a quantum orchestra playing inside your neurons. At the core of their idea are tiny structures inside your neurons called microtubules. Each neuron contains a forest of these hollow protein tubes, once dismissed as mere scaffolding. But they are far from inert. They vibrate and resonate like strings, running computations at scales far beyond a normal neuron's firing. Hameroff spent decades studying microtubules, convinced they are the brain's hidden keys. Incredibly, these microtubules operate on many levels at once. They can vibrate at a spectrum of frequencies from slow brainwave rhythms up to hyper-fast terahertz oscillations. Patterns repeat across scales, like a melody echoing in different octaves, a fractal song in your cells. One researcher even dubbed it a time crystal, shimmering inside the neuron, a stable rhythm flowing through time itself. Think about what that means. A neuron isn't a simple on-off switch at all, but more like a grand piano playing many notes. While conventional neuroscience listens for one melody in the brain, like a slow drumbeat of electrical pulses, inside each cell, a whole orchestra plays in rich harmony. The computational capacity skyrockets. Your brain might be performing feats no ordinary computer could ever match. Hameroff found inspiration in Penrose's radical idea. Consciousness is fundamentally non-algorithmic. No ordinary computation can create your awareness. Instead, Penrose claimed it arises at a quantum moment, when a wave function collapses. When quantum possibilities shrink to one reality because gravity forces a choice, something beyond calculation floods in. That flash of an objective collapse, he believed, is a conscious moment. This epiphany led Hameroff straight to Roger Penrose's work. Penrose had argued that consciousness is fundamentally non-algorithmic. It cannot be produced by any conventional computation. Instead, he suggested, it emerges from a moment of quantum physics, the collapse of the wave function. According to Penrose, when a quantum superposition collapses due to gravity reaching a certain threshold, something new floods in, something beyond computation, potentially the spark of awareness itself. Penrose had the physics, but he lacked a mechanism in the brain. How could fragile quantum states survive in the warm, wet chaos of a neuron? That's where Hameroff stepped in with his beloved microtubules. He proposed that these protein lattices are the protected arenas where quantum superpositions can form, linger just long enough, and then collapse to generate a flash of consciousness. Critics scoffed. The brain is far too warm and noisy for delicate quantum effects. In labs, quantum states get destroyed by the tiniest disturbance. But inside microtubules lies a surprising refuge. Each microtubule has a hydrophobic core, a tiny oasis free of water, filled with ring-shaped molecules that can support quantum vibrations. It's as if the cell provides little quantum echo chambers, protecting fragile superpositions from the chaos outside. Consider what anesthesia does. A small dose of gas or drug, and you, the thinking, feeling you, vanish. Yet your brain is still there, warm and alive, just not conscious. How can a molecule do that? Almost like flipping a switch. It turns out these anesthetics slip into the microtubules' hydrophobic pockets, disrupting the quantum processes and snuffing out the spark of awareness. It works the same in humans, apes, birds, even tiny insects, implying the same quantum switch for consciousness might be built into all living things. Now consider the opposite kind of compound. Not one that knocks you out, but one that blows your mind open. Psychedelic substances like LSD or DMT appear to do the reverse of anesthesia. If anesthesia slows the microtubule vibrations, psychedelics crank up the tempo. They drive the quantum orchestra to play faster and louder, flooding your brain with a torrent of quantum events. With far more quantum collapses, your normal sense of self and time can shatter, replaced by a kaleidoscope of sensations. Boundaries dissolve. Users often report feeling at one with the universe, which makes sense if the mind's quantum entanglement is turned up to full volume. Here's a wild thought. The very molecular structures that enable this quantum mind are not unique to you at all. They're everywhere. The ring-shaped complexes inside microtubules, the same kind found in psychedelic molecules and your brain's neurotransmitters, are abundantly scattered through interstellar space. Dying stars forge these aromatic rings and cast them across the galaxy long before life arose. It's as if the universe planted tiny seeds of consciousness in the fabric of reality, waiting eons for life to bloom around them. When life finally emerged on Earth, those cosmic ingredients were ready and waiting, ready to ignite the first spark of mind. No classical brain theory can connect all these dots. It cannot tell us why a simple anesthetic gas can erase the mind, or how a psychedelic can expand it to feel one with the cosmos. It can't fathom how consciousness could arise from inert matter at all. That hard problem remains unsolved. But this quantum perspective ties these mysteries together. Suddenly, the anesthesia switch, the psychedelic voyage, the spark of life itself, all make sense as manifestations of an underlying quantum mind woven into the fabric of reality. Now we confront perhaps the deepest question of all. What happens when the brain dies? If consciousness truly lives on the quantum edge, is death just an off switch or a doorway? Some people near death report a peculiar clarity, a feeling of leaving the body and watching from above, even when their brain should be flatlined. Could it be that their quantum mind momentarily slipped out of its biological home, yet remained intact in some form? Penrose and Hameroff have cautiously floated a stunning possibility. At the moment of death, the quantum information in your microtubules doesn't just evaporate. Instead, it may leak out into the fabric of space-time itself. But here's the twist. It might not scatter and lose coherence. It could remain entangled, essentially holding you together as a cloud of quantum information. This would be, in essence, a quantum soul. If the body is revived, this cloud could slip back into the cells and restore consciousness, which might explain the vivid recollections of near-death survivors. And if the body is not revived, perhaps that quantum soul continues on, no longer bound to a brain, still entangled with the cosmos. Now, this idea of a quantum soul and consciousness beyond the brain is speculative. Even Penrose and Hameroff admit it sounds far-fetched. It's not something we can prove today, and it verges into what many would call science fiction. But here's the thing. Until we can show that consciousness must be a purely classical brain phenomenon, we cannot completely dismiss the possibility of it operating non-locally. In other words, if the door of quantum mind is open even a crack, then concepts like free will, an identity beyond the body, and some form of existence after death no longer seem like mere fantasies. They become questions worthy of serious thought. On a personal level, this idea can be strangely empowering. If your mind is not just a deterministic machine, then perhaps your choices are real. You are not a helpless passenger to chemistry and physics. You might be an active participant, collapsing quantum possibilities into reality with each decision. In a world where classical science often tells you everything is predetermined, the thought that you possess a spark of true freedom is exhilarating. It also reframes your identity. Instead of being just an emergent property of brain cells, you become something much more enigmatic. You are a process woven into the very structure of the universe, a pattern in space-time geometry itself. Your essence might be less like a static object and more like a waveform, a ripple that can potentially transcend the physical form that carries it. That thought can be both eerie and comforting. You're not simply in the universe. You are of the universe. And what about purpose? In a cosmos where mind is woven into the fabric of existence, life stops being a cosmic accident and starts looking like part of the plan. Penrose even hinted that each conscious moment might resonate with hidden Platonic values, fundamental truths, beauty, or goodness ingrained in the geometry of reality. Perhaps by being conscious, you are literally in touch with those primal values. Your joys, your insights, your moral triumphs might be reflections of deeper patterns in the universe itself. This view elevates every experience. Your life becomes a bridge between the everyday world and the timeless underpinnings of existence. Even the notion of death takes on a different cast. If consciousness is fundamental and can exist beyond the brain, then death is not necessarily a full erase. It might be a transformation. The end of bodily life could mean your quantum essence diffuses into the wider universe. Perhaps it joins a larger ocean of consciousness or awaits new forms. This perspective doesn't give us any guarantees, but it does replace despair with possibility. Instead of a cold oblivion, there is a hint of continuity, a sense that the story of you might not end with your last heartbeat. Think about where we began, the seemingly unbridgeable gap between mind and matter. The hard problem of consciousness felt like staring into an abyss. But now, a picture emerges, one where that gap isn't a gap at all, because mind and matter are entwined at the quantum level. We set out asking how lifeless matter could ever give rise to awareness. And we found an answer that turns the question on its head. Perhaps matter itself contains the seeds of awareness from the very start. Consciousness was never an afterthought of evolution. It might be woven into the fabric of reality, quietly orchestrating its grand symphony through us. This view is a revolution in the making. It challenges everything we thought we knew about brains, minds, and machines. The idea that consciousness is a quantum process means that our current AI, no matter how fast or clever, might never feel a thing as long as it's purely algorithmic. To create an artificial mind that truly experiences, we might need to give it a little piece of the quantum world, something like the microtubule orchestras inside us. In short, the secret to consciousness might not lie in more lines of code, but in tapping into the fundamental physics that underlies reality itself. It's natural to meet these ideas with skepticism. Extraordinary claims, after all, demand extraordinary evidence. And it may take years or decades for science to verify if the quantum mind hypothesis is true. But remember, every profound discovery in science once sounded like madness. The round Earth, quantum superpositions, time being relative, each upended what people thought was obvious. This idea is no different. It sits at the edge of science and philosophy, daring us to expand our understanding of reality. And if it's even partially correct, the implications are staggering. At the very least, this exploration forces us to confront the mystery head-on. It reminds you that reality is far more mysterious than the neat equations and textbook diagrams suggest. Your mind, that intimate sense of I am, could be a fundamental part of the grand cosmic tapestry. When you gaze at the stars or marvel at a sunset, consider that your capacity to witness beauty might be woven from the same cosmic threads as the stars themselves. There is a profound kinship between your consciousness and the universe that birthed it. In the end, maybe consciousness really must be quantum mechanical. Nothing else seems grand enough to explain the saga of awareness, the richness of your inner life, the reality of your free will, the possibility of your spirit extending beyond your body. All of it gains a foothold when we admit that the mind might be wired into the deepest physics of the universe. Seeing consciousness through this quantum lens doesn't diminish the wonder of it, it amplifies it. It tells you that the spark behind your eyes is not just a byproduct of cells, but a fundamental note in the symphony of reality. And that is a truly beautiful idea. Try to imagine the day this theory gains solid proof. It might not be tomorrow, but if researchers confirmed that consciousness arises from quantum orchestrations, it would mark a turning point in human understanding. We would realize that awareness is not just an accidental byproduct of biology, but a fundamental aspect of nature. Psychology, medicine, philosophy, all would transform. We'd search for quantum minds in other living beings, even in the cosmos at large. We'd start asking not do you have a soul, but what is the quantum state of your soul today? A playful yet profound shift in perspective. Each individual consciousness could be like a tuning fork, resonating with the fundamental vibrations of existence. When you think or feel, perhaps you are literally in tune with subtle frequencies that permeate the cosmos. This image might sound poetic, but it is exactly what the Orch-OR theory implies. That deep down, your mind is an instrument playing along with the universe. It lends a whole new meaning to being in harmony with the world around you. It's a grand paradox. In the quest to understand ourselves, we find answers in the tiniest of places. The very small, quantum fluctuations in a microtubule, could be responsible for the very large, the sweep of a lifetime of thoughts and dreams. It's as if by peering into the minuscule flicker inside a neuron, we catch a glimpse of a vast cosmic principle. The micro and the macro reflect each other, like fractals repeating the same design at different scales. In a way, this theory bridges the age-old divide between science and spirituality. It gives a physics framework for concepts like the soul, interconnection, and life after death that have long been matters of faith. It suggests that spiritual experiences, the feeling of unity, the intuition of a higher purpose, might stem from real quantum events in the brain, linking us to a broader reality. The mystics who spoke of being one with the universe perhaps weren't only speaking metaphorically. They could have been sensing a truth we are only now beginning to scientifically fathom. For now, what this theory offers is a sense of wonder. It tells you that you are, in a very real sense, a miracle of the cosmos. Not a miracle in the supernatural sense, but a natural miracle. A shimmering coalescence of quantum possibilities that somehow woke up and became you. If that doesn't make you feel a little bit special, I don't know what will. So what do you do with this knowledge? It's not just fodder for late-night contemplation. It can change how you see yourself and others right now. If every conscious being is tapping into this quantum field of mind, then harming someone or even an animal isn't just cruel. It's in some sense harming a piece of the same consciousness that flows through you. On the flip side, acts of kindness and empathy take on new depth, as if you're harmonizing with others in that deeper field. Perhaps the age-old moral insight that we are all connected has a scientific underpinning after all. It also means that your inner world, your thoughts, intentions, and feelings might matter more than we ever imagined. If consciousness is woven into the fabric of reality, then every flash of awareness is significant. Your moments of insight or compassion could be echoing in the very structure of space and time. It gives a new weight to introspection, mindfulness, and cultivating a healthy mind. Taking care of your consciousness might be as important as taking care of your body, if not more so. We stand at the threshold of a new understanding of ourselves. The journey isn't over. It's barely begun. There are experiments to run, equations to solve, debates to be had. Maybe the Orch-OR theory will evolve, or even be replaced by something even more mind-blowing. But one thing is clear. By daring to say that consciousness is quantum, Penrose and Hameroff have reignited our hope of cracking the greatest mystery we know. They've given us a plausible roadmap, a way to think about the problem that doesn't dismiss our deepest intuitions as illusions, but rather elevates them to fundamental status. So the next time you wonder who you really are, consider this. You are the way the universe is aware of itself. You are not just a collection of atoms and neurons. You are a focal point where the fabric of reality has become conscious. This perspective is both humbling and ennobling. Humbling because it reminds you that your consciousness arises from the same cosmic dance that creates galaxies. Ennobling because it means your life, your awareness, has cosmic significance. We've journeyed from the tiniest flickers inside neurons to the vast expanse of the cosmos, and back to the very core of you. Quantum or not, consciousness remains a wonder. Perhaps the ultimate takeaway is to stay curious and open-minded, because reality might be far more magical than we ever assumed. If this exploration sparked something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share your own insights or doubts in the comments. And if you found this journey worthwhile, please give it a like and consider subscribing to join us for more deep dives into the mysteries of existence.